Welcome to the study session where we are breaking down the BCBA 6th edition task list. Today, we are settling into the heavy-hitting Domain B, concepts and principles, focusing specifically on Task B.3, defining and providing examples of respondent and operant conditioning.
If you're just joining us, you've picked a great time. Domain B is a massive part of the BCBA 6th edition test content outline, accounting for 14% of the exam. That is about 24 questions out of the 175 scored items you'll see on the big day.
Exactly. If Domain A was our behavioral glasses to see the world, Domain B is the engine room. It's where we figure out the how of learning. Task B.3 is essentially the fork in the road between two very different types of learning processes, the stuff we're born with and the stuff we pick up from our environment.
I like to call it the reflex versus result showdown. Let's start with the reflex side, respondent conditioning, which most people know as Pavlovian or classical conditioning.
Right. This is all about pairing. According to our sources, respondent conditioning occurs when a neutral stimulus is paired with an unconditioned stimulus. To understand this, you first have to look at what you're starting with, the unconditioned stimulus, or US. This is something that naturally triggers a response without any prior learning.
Like the classic Pavlov dog example. Food in the mouth is a US. You don't have to train a dog or a human to drool when they eat something delicious. That salivation is an unconditioned response, or UR. It's biological pre-wiring.
Now, here comes the conditioning part. Suppose you have a neutral stimulus, like the sound of classical music. If you just play Mozart, your dog isn't going to start drooling unless they have very specific taste in music, I guess. But, if you play that classical music right when you put the food in the dog's mouth, you are creating a pairing.
After you do that pairing enough times, the magic of respondent conditioning happens. The music is no longer neutral, it becomes a conditioned stimulus. Now, you can just play the music alone, and the dog will start salivating.
It's a biological shortcut. The environment has signaled to the body that something is coming, so the body reacts reflexively. On the exam, if you see terms like elicited, reflex, or SS pairing, stimulus, your brain should immediately scream respondent conditioning.
And let's be honest, it's not just dogs. If you've ever had a bad case of food poisoning from a specific seafood restaurant, and now just seeing their logo makes you feel nauseous, congratulations, you've been respondently conditioned. Your body is eliciting a response to a previously neutral sign.
Laughs, exactly. Now, let's pivot to the side of the house where BCBAs spend about 95% of their time, operant conditioning. While respondent conditioning is about what comes before a reflex, operant conditioning is all about what happens after a behavior.
This is the what's in it for me school of learning. Operant behavior is strengthened or weakened by its consequences. We aren't dealing with reflexes here, we are dealing with behaviors that operate on the environment to produce a result.
The sources give us a perfect clinical example. Think about a parent who tells their child that if they finish all their chores, they can stay up 1 extra hour late at night.
Now, let's break that down for the exam. The behavior we want to see is doing chores. The consequence is extra sleep time or lack thereof. If the kid values that extra hour, they are going to do those chores more often in the future. That's reinforcement in action.
And this is the core of our work. Whether we are using positive reinforcement, adding a desirable stimulus like a cookie after chores, or negative reinforcement, removing something aversive like taking away an undesired toy when a child uses a no-pex card, we are doing operant conditioning. We are changing the future probability of that behavior based on the payoff.
Here is where students often get tripped up. They think conditioned always means respondent. But remember, we have conditioned reinforcers too, things like tokens, praise, or money. These aren't reflexes, they are stimuli that learn their value, which we then use to shape operant behavior.
That is such an important distinction. A simple way to keep this straight for the 175 scored questions is to look at the voluntary nature of the act. Respondent conditioning is like an automatic reply from your nervous system. Operant conditioning is a choice shaped by history.
I like to use the baby cry analogy. A newborn baby cries because they are in pain or hungry. That's often respondent. a reflexive reaction to a biological state. But very quickly, that baby learns that crying, the behavior, results in mom picking them up, the consequence. Suddenly, that cry is an operant. It's being evoked by the environment because it has been reinforced in the past.
That's a perfect example of how the two can overlap. It's why we have to be such good observers. If you're just looking at the topography, the what the behavior looks like, you might miss the why. Are they drooling because of a reflex, respondent, or because they learned that drooling gets them a napkin and a laugh, operant?
Laughs. Hopefully not the latter. But that's why Domain B is 14% of the exam. You have to be able to distinguish between these two processes in complex scenarios where a client might be experiencing both at the same time.
One last pro tip for the listeners: watch your verbs. If the question says a stimulus elicits a response, think respondent. If the question says an antecedent evokes a behavior, or that a consequence reinforces it, think operant. Those verbs are the secret code of the BCBA.
It's all about the timing. SS for respondent and SRS for operant. Once you master that, you've unlocked a huge portion of the points needed to pass.
If you want to put this to the test, go to www.bcbamockexam.com. We have mock questions specifically designed to trick you on these two concepts so you don't get tricked on the actual exam.
Get those pairings right, folks. We'll see you in the next session where we tackle schedules of reinforcement.
See ya.
Bye.